Welcome, everybody, to our channel, Our Scientology Stories, Peeling the Onion. My name is Mark Fisher, and we want to welcome you to our channel today. We are live right now, and let me go ahead and bring in my co-host, and here she is, Janis Gillham Grady. How you doing, Janis?
I'm doing good, Mark. Hi, everyone. What is it? Thursday. Happy Thursday.
Yeah, Thursday. We're at 2 o'clock, too, here on the West Coast, so stats are in. And, we'll be doing a stat analysis later on and telling everybody where to go, what to do after that.
And we are up stats, so we qualify for Liberty this weekend.
That's right. Anyway, we are live right now. We've got viewers coming in here. In the chat, go ahead and tell us where you're from, where you're watching, and, while we get everything loaded up here, and let everybody know where you're watching from. We've got quite a few viewers here already. And Janis, any news at your end? How are you doing?
Oh, I'm doing all right. I did hurt my leg today at the gym, so I'm hobbling a little bit, but I'll get over it.
Okay, great. Yeah, we want you in fighting shape here. Okay. Looks like we got somebody here from Ohio. Morning from Australia. Rhode Island. I was born in Rhode Island, actually, in Newport, Rhode Island. My dad was in the Navy. My mom had me, and we moved 2 weeks later. So I literally lived in Rhode Island for 2 weeks. We got South Africa in the house, Lancaster, California here, Bayshore, Long Island.
Germany and Alaska.
Germany and Alaska. That's great. And Vermont, early evening in Vermont. Let's see, Alberta, Canada, I just saw came in the house. And, we got Glasgow, Scotland.
Yep.
Fantastic. We got Central Arkansas. We're all over the place. We're in the U.S., we're overseas, and all points, San Antonio, Chattanooga, Tennessee. And Goldie's with us. Hello, Goldie. Thank you for moderating. We really appreciate it. And we got quite a few people in here. Anyway, the name of this show, again, it's L. Ron Hubbard's Messengers, and it's part 5. And we've got these fantastic photographs that Janis has collected from her time back in the Commodores Messenger organization. For anybody who's new to watching our channel, Janis, why don't you tell them, when you started as a messenger, and then, we'll go from there.
Okay. Well, I as many of you already know, I was born into Scientology, and then at the age of 11, I ended up on the Royal Scotsman. Mark, can you show that first picture?
I don't. Oh, the one in the messenger thing. Yeah, hold on one second.
That is me at 11 years old. I arrived on the ship in January 1968, and this picture was taken in March of 1968.
I love your hair there. I'm being serious. I like it. It looks good.
Wild and free in Spain. Yeah. Anyway, so then when I turned 12, by that time, L. Ron Hubbard had come back to the Royal Scotsman and needed messengers to run around the ship for him. So at 12 years old, I became one of the first Commodores Messengers. And then I was a Commodore's messenger for the rest of my history in the Sea Org for 22 years.
Fabulous. Before we get started on the next slide, I wanted to remind everybody that we will answer questions. You can, put your question in the chat, in the live chat. You can do a super sticker. You can do a super chat. Or if you're just going to do a regular question, we're going to answer everything. Just please write the word question in front of the question if it's not a super chat, because it makes it very easy for us to spot it and to star it so that we don't miss it. Okay. And then the other thing we'd like to ask you to do is, if you're new to our channel, please subscribe. Hit that like button. It helps us. We're almost at 5,000 subscribers. We're over 4,700, and we're trying to make that drive for 5,000. So anyway, if you're new here, about a third of you, the people by statistics that watch, are not subscribers. So please subscribe to the channel, because we got really great content coming your way. Janis and I put a lot of work into it, and we want everybody to enjoy it. So yeah, subscribe and all that.
Also tell your friends about us.
Absolutely. Tell your family, tell your friends. Janis, you had a friend who and her husband were sitting up watching all of our videos, right?
Oh yeah, they binge watch every night. They try and watch about 3 videos a night. And I get text messages throughout it.
And these are friends who were never Scientologists. So, you know, yeah, we get all types. We get ex-Scientologists, we get ex-Sea Org members, and then we get your regular people that are watching.
Yeah.
We really,
this one was my very first friend out of the Sea Org,
yeah.
and still a friend today. So she's like, "Why didn't you tell me this?"
And my brother's in town right now, and he's been a subscriber from day one, but he was asking Janis last night different questions about some of the videos. And so, yeah, we appreciate everybody. One last thing I wanted to mention, Janis, before we go to the slideshow, we are going to have a giveaway right after we finish the slides and before we go to questions. We're going to give away something, so stick around for that. And anyway, we will get going here in the next slide. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and put this up here. Okay, Janis.
Yeah, so that's just a photo of me reporting back on a message to L. Ron Hubbard. Some people have brought up that I call him the Commodore, and why do I give him that respect? Well, that was his job on the ship in the Sea Org. He was the Commodore. Just like at St. Hill, everyone called him Ron. So I try to refer to him how people referred to him at that time. So St. Hill, I talked about him as Ron. On the ship, I'll talk to him as the Commodore. I don't refer to him as the captain when he was the captain, because there was also Captain Starkey and Captain Robinson and Captain Pook. So I prefer just to stick to the Commodore. Sometimes I'll call him LRH or Hubbard. And then when later on, when we get to La Quinta and Hammett, I'll probably refer to him as the old man, because that's what we referred to him as at that time. So that kind of helps separate out time periods.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. Anyway, and also, just so people know, we're not trying to whitewash anything here. We're just showing photographs from the history. We do know about the abuses. We're going to talk about those. We have in the past on some of the earlier parts as well, and we're going to go over some of those today too. So it's not just everything was hunky-dory on the high seas. You know, it was not. These were young children that were working as messengers, that their parents had let them do that, right? And we're going to go over that in more detail. Right, Janis?
Yes. And I want to bring up, there was probably around 15 of us who didn't have parents on the ship. And of those 15, there were people who thought it was the greatest life. They were happy to be away from their parents or from their old home life. One girl felt safer on the ship than she did at home, because she had a problem at home with her brother molesting her, and on the ship she was safe from that. So, and then you had another one who was not safe on the ship. So every one of us all have a different story and a different experience. So this time I'm going to try and put across everyone's different experiences to help make that better, because I know after the last show I was like, wow, that was all about weddings and how great it was, and it missed on the abuse in between.
Yeah.
So let me try and make up for that in this one.
Okay, great. All right, should I go to the next slide?
Yes. All right, so this is a picture of Mary Sue Hubbard with Otto Roos.
Can you point out, Mary Sue's on the left, right?
Mary Sue's on the, yes, of course.
No, it's just hard to see in the picture.
Oh, okay, yeah. Mary Sue's on the left and Otto Roos, and they're doing an inspection of the ship. This was in 1968 during the liability cruise. And that's a whole nother subject I will do another video on later. But I wanted to establish, when I came on the ship, my mother was not there. So Mary Sue was the legal guardian for my brother, sister, and I while our mother was sailing. Okay, we can go to the next one.
All right.
And here is in the front, there's 3 messengers: Annie Tidman, who became Annie Broker, Sharon Stainforth, and myself. At this time, none of us had parents on the ship. Sharon's father would come and go, and then he disappeared, and they ended up sending her off to go find her father. She had no idea where he was, and ended up with another family member until she found her dad. Annie, I had said a few videos back that Annie came to the ship with her 2 older sisters and the youngest sister and her mom. Well, I talked to Donna, Annie's younger sister, and she said, "You know what? My mom didn't come until 6 months later." So there was 4 young girls who all came to the ship without the mother.
Wow.
But the older sister, Janis, was probably 17 at the time, and I think Nancy was 15, and Annie was 12, and Donna was 11. And I bring up, here's a story of where Sharon and I were accused of over talking on one of Hubbard's cassette players. Every dinner time, we'd take a little cassette player and would play classical music as a background music during LRH's dinner time with Mary Sue. And it was probably so nobody could hear what they were talking about because it sat in between the table and the messengers sitting outside the door. And one day I put the cassette in and I go sit in the chair outside and I'm called back in and there's voices. Someone had recorded some voices over the top of his music. So a board of investigation is done and the board has decided that it was Sharon and I. And it was not Sharon and I. And we kept denying it the whole time. We did not do it. But the board decided it was us because there was an English accent. Well, Sharon had an English accent. Mine was Australian. But neither of us did it. Anyway, we ended up both being assigned wrongly a condition of liability. And we end up down in the hold of the ship, the lower forward hold, having to clean it up. And we had to stay up all night doing it because our men's project was 12 hours. So I think that was the first time I went for a couple of days with no sleep as a 12-year-old. So,
wow.
Yeah, that's why I wanted to show this picture here to point out Sharon and myself. Okay. Now, this is Vixie. Vixie is Mary Sue's dog, or was. Vixie used to growl at people who would come into the A-deck area, and the big joke was that if Vixie barked at you, you were out ethics. Well, nobody really thought that was a joke if Vixie was barking at him because people then said, you're out ethics, you got withholds. So one day I was running messages and LRH was in his research room with Mary Sue having breakfast. And Vixie is barking. And I come running back from the message and LRH is, what's Vixie barking at? And I said, well, Arthur. Next slide, I believe, is Arthur.
Okay.
There's Arthur. I said, Arthur is teasing Vixie because Vixie used to love to grab onto his jean pant leg and he would just slide her around the floor. Anyway, so that was the end of that, I thought it was, and I sat back down. And then later on, Mary Sue comes at me and she is wagging her finger in my face, telling me I am the biggest liar on God's green earth.
Wow.
And I'm like, what is going on? Well, apparently Mary Sue went to her steward and asked her if Arthur was teasing Vixie, and the steward said no. So I therefore became the liar for having told the Commodore that Arthur was teasing Vixie. And I ended up being assigned a condition of doubt. And when one's in doubt, they have to wear a chain around their wrist to show that they're in doubt, a condition of doubt. And therefore, I had to then do even more amends to get out of the condition of doubt. But I'll tell you, that was probably the most unpleasant thing I've ever had happen in my face was Mary Sue wagging her finger, yelling at me. And this is the woman that was supposed to be my legal guardian.
Wow.
Yeah.
And now, it's all because of the dog, Vixie.
All because of the dog, Vixie. Yeah. All right. So
who are these people? Who is this in the photo, left or right?
All right. Well, on the left is my sister with her hands on Arthur's shoulder. That's Arthur Hubbard. And my sister Terry. And then next to her is Donna Tidman. Donna Jenkins. Donna is actually in the chat room right now. Hi, Donna.
Hi, Donna.
Anyway, I talked with Donna just the other day just to get her approval that I bring this matter up. Vixie was mean. Anyway, I got
Vixie
Donna's
was mean,
agreement.
Donna says. Yeah.
Yeah. I got Donna's agreement to tell this story. Now, though Donna, after being on the ship 6 months, did not have a parent there, her parents did finally arrive. Well, Donna actually at the age of 12 was nearly raped on the ship by the chief engineer at that time.
Whoa.
And she was lucky that our tutor, Lee Collins, walked in and basically saved her. So Lee then went to ethics and reported the chief engineer for attempted rape of a minor of 12 years old.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. Now, her mother, however, didn't view it the same way as Lee, the tutor. Her mother actually was mad at Donna for agreeing and supporting the report because it was going to ruin a good man's life who was very valuable as the chief engineer.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, he did end up getting offloaded off the ship, which was probably made it safer for all of us young girls. But so anyway, I wanted to bring that up, that though Donna's parent was there, that parent had a very different attitude than most parents because she saw more the Sea Org Scientology as the priority over her daughter.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a terrible story.
Yes.
Sorry that happened. Donna, we're sorry that happened to you. And thank you for allowing us to share that. And I knew your sister Nancy really well. And of course, I knew Annie as well, too. So anyway.
Now, I want to bring up another story for on Donna and something she had to go through as well.
Okay.
You know, training to become a messenger, Donna, of course, you know, she was 11 years old. At some point, the Commodore put in the messengers in training were to do the execs project for the estate project force, EPF. And by doing that as messengers, they had to wash the senior messengers' clothes and clean their rooms. And if they messed up on anything, they got in trouble and they got assigned conditions, and they had it rough. I did not have it as rough as some of these young ones coming up because I was already there. I did get in trouble because I would see what was happening to them, and I didn't want to recruit more young people to go through the staying up and all the late stuff that these EPFers had to do. And then if your shirt got shrunk, they got in trouble. So I would get in trouble for not making HCO recruit more messengers, the young ones. And Donna, one of her penalties was, this was ordered by the Commodore, she was locked in a closet for the night as a penalty.
Wow.
And Donna reminded me of this as we were talking, because I was like, you know, I woke up last night thinking of you, and there was some penalty. Was that you that was locked in the closet? She's like, yes. So anyway, I just wanted to also bring that up to kind of bring up what was going on there.
Okay, great. Yeah, and Donna posted this comment. Thanks, Janis, for telling my story so well.
You're welcome, honey.
Okay. Ready to go to the next one?
Yep, let's go to the next one.
Okay.
Okay, so this is Amanda with her mother, Amanda Sr. Amanda Sr. was...
You're talking about Amanda Ambrose.
Amanda Ambrose. She was on lines at Celebrity Center, and she even came to the ship to study the org exec course, and she used to play Diana's piano, and you could hear her singing away. Incredible voice. And she had very talented kids, even Amanda, who after she left the ship, she became a singer and lives in Canada and was a singer there. All the kids had some sort of musical talent. Anyway, Amanda is one who I brought up earlier, was safer on the ship than her home life. Her mother being a celebrity wasn't there much. And Amanda was abused. And coming to the ship, it was safer for her.
Right. Okay. Ready for the next one?
Yep. Okay. And here's a picture of, Tony, that's Amanda's brother. He's the one that used to abuse her. But on the ship, he didn't have that liberty. And there's me in the back there with a cigarette in my hand, and Doug McCullough and Doreen, my sister-in-law, leaning on his back. Anyway, I just wanted to show Tony. Tony was actually the one who, when we were in Tenerife, it came up, the Commodore found out before HCO did that Tony was molesting a messenger who woke up to find him molesting her. And so he was immediately booted off the ship.
Okay. What are you guys doing there?
Oh, we were all just hanging out on the deck.
Got it. Okay. Now this looks like happier times.
Yeah. In 1973, while the Commodore was gone in New York, Terry's on the right and I'm on the left, and my mom was down in Mexico. We went to LA to see her. We went to Phoenix. She then went to Mexico to do an event.
Janice, tell everybody who your mother is, just because.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. My mother is Yvonne Gillham Gents, or Yvonne Gents. And she was the person who started Celebrity Center back in 1969. And I will do a whole nother chapter on Celebrity Center and on my mother and on Heber.
Yeah.
So, anyway, this is just showing that while the Commodore was gone, we had good fun with our mother. We went down to Mexico and saw her down there. And we went to the pyramids and, so there were some good times in there.
Okay.
Now, this is a more recent photo. This is Homer Schomer on the left, Mike Rinder in the middle, and Bent Carden on the right. Homer Schomer was on the ship with us. He had a daughter who, when he came to the Sea Oak, his daughter was left behind and was being raised by Phil Spickler and was basically growing up with Mimi Rogers. And then Homer was finally able to get his daughter, Valerie Page, to the ship. Mm-hmm. So he was now reunited with her. And Valerie somehow was put on a different watch that Homer had to petition Mary Sue to be able to take liberty with his daughter and get on the same watch as her.
His own daughter.
This just shows you how disconnected the personnel department was of relationships. And they should have immediately just done that automatically. And then Bent Carden. Bent is still a good friend of mine today. I first met him when I was 17 years old. And I was on my first leave of absence. I had nothing to do. And Bent was the mission holder of Riverside Mission. It was the biggest mission in the world at the time. And he also wrote the book Madman or Messiah.
L. Ron Hubbard, Madman or Messiah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I pointed that out in one of the other videos because he came up here for a few days and was hanging out. So anyway, so there's Bent. And when I was 17, he took me to Disneyland. And you can go to the next slide.
Well, I just wanted to say shout out to Mike Rinder. Hope he's doing better. We're trying to, he's getting his treatment from what we understand. But Mike, today's his anniversary with his wife too, 10-year anniversary. So happy anniversary.
Mike, we love you.
Yeah, and we wish you well, Mike.
Okay. All right, so this is me at Disneyland with Tim Eaton, and Bent is the one who took this picture.
Who's Tim Eaton?
Tim Eaton was over the U.S. missions, so he was Bent's boss. And he had been on the ship, and that's how I knew him. And he was like, you need to do something. Let's go to Disneyland. So that's where he called Bent, and we drove to Riverside, and then we got in Bent's car and went to Disneyland.
And just to explain to everybody who doesn't understand Scientology structure, there's Scientology organizations, and they're like the big organizations like in Los Angeles, San Francisco, New York. And then a mission is a franchise that's people would buy, and they deliver lower level Scientology services. And then the idea is then they would feed them into the upper organizations for higher level services. So this gentleman, Tim Eaton, he was over the missions, overseeing all the missions, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
he was.
All right.
All right. This here is the Apollo Stars. As many of you know, we had musicians on the ship that were formed because when we sailed one year into Funchal, Madeira, the mayor wanted to know if we had any musicians who could do a performance in the local square. So that then became a PR thing. As we sailed from port to port, the musicians would play. This event here was in Cadiz at the circus. Now, Mo Safadi, who was married to one of the musicians, she had been a dance instructor and a dancer, and she had the idea of let's do some Apollo Star dances. So she had to get some dancers together for that. So for the very first performances with dancers, it was Maureen, Dee Dee, myself, Quentin Hubbard, and Pat Broker. And we performed in a couple of assisted living places in Madeira and different things. And then we got to perform in the circus in Cadiz. And we'd worked out this whole cape dance. And we were doing that. And I thought everything was great. And it was fun. And the photographer had been there taking photos of us. And then all her photos would get developed and go to the Commodore. Well, one day I'm sitting on watch and I hear this messenger. So I get up and go in there thinking I'm getting a message. And he's like, "Do you see this photo?" And I'm like, "No." And he shows me this photo and it's us dancing. And he goes, "What's wrong with the photo?" I'm like, "Oh, I don't know what's wrong with it." Out of all the dances, I am out of step. And it's caught on film. Anyway, so that was my dancing experience.
Okay, ready for the next one?
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, so here is Claire, or as Ken called her in our other videos, that's Poppy. Her name was Claire Popham. And she was one of the original messengers with me and Annie and Terry. And with her is David Rousseau, who she eventually married. Well, she was married to him in this picture. But Claire used to be married to Mike Maurer. And then David became a messenger, and David and Claire ended up having an affair together, which ended up with Claire going to the Rehabilitation Project Force. And that's where Ken told the story of where Poppy came to get her graduation completed staff work approved because she'd gone to the RPF and was now getting off. And so that was where two messengers both ended up in the RPF for having their affair. And there were some other messengers who, slept with some guys, and the messenger would get removed and end up going through a whole cleanup program, and same as the guy who was messing with the messenger. So it wasn't that, everyone could just sleep around and not get in trouble for it. People did get in trouble.
Okay.
All right, here is a breakfast photograph. Mary Sue is on the left, and the Commodore is on the right, and his steward is serving him something for breakfast. Now, if you look at the picture closely, you will see that the Commodore's hand is wrapped up.
His right hand?
Yeah, his right hand. You see it's wrapped?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, what had happened is one of the functions of the Messengers was to make sure that there were no flies in his office or in his dining room. And before he'd go eat, we would go down and we'd look for any flies and kill them with the fly swatter before he would go down to dinner. Well, one evening there was a fly and I hadn't gotten it. Normally he would say messenger and then we'd come in and he'd have us, get the flies. Well, this time he decided to try and get it with his hand. And he ended up hurting his wrist from it. So I was assigned a condition of liability because I didn't get the fly.
Oh, jeez. Fly catcher. Wow, that's terrible. Who's the steward there?
I think that's Charlotte.
Oh, really?
Isaac.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So he couldn't smash a fly, but he smashed his wrist.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Next one.
All right. Here, this is, I guess it was 1975. We were still on the ship, and we took a leave of absence. And Mom had worked out that's Cass Warner or Cass Living Right, Cass Hauser. She married Wings Hauser, who used to be staff at Celebrity Center, but Cass had come in a lot of money. She was a Warner Brother heiress.
From Warner Brothers Studios in Hollywood.
From Warner Brothers Studios, yes. And Cass ended up meeting Wings at CC and buying Wings' SEAL contract out. And so they were living in the manor at this time. And that baby is Cole Hauser, who is Rip on Yellowstone. So any of you Yellowstone fans, that's the man who's the manager. Well, now he's the man, but that's him as a little boy. Anyway, my mom was very close with Cass. And Cass offered for us to take a week's leave and hang out at her ranch in Laurel Canyon or Laurel Springs. Laurel Canyon, I think it is. So the next picture is my sister with Wings' horse. Oh, she just fell in love with this horse and just enjoyed so much being up there for a week, being around the horses. And that's my mom talking to her. And then it was a great leave, even though it was 1 week, Mom got away for a week and we were just a family. And it was really nice. It was the first time in probably about nearly 8 years that we'd been together as a family, but my brother wasn't there. Anyway, next picture. So there's Mom and Heber on Cass and Wings' horses up at the ranch.
They were married at that time, right?
Yeah, they were married at that time. Yep.
Okay.
And then back to the ship. Here we are back in the Caribbean.
Before we go into this one, I wanted to ask you another question about
yeah.
Cole Hauser is not a Scientologist, right? I mean, he was born like his mother was a Scientologist and Wings was as well. But from my understanding, he's not currently a Scientologist or wasn't, right?
Well, he was raised as a Scientologist. I don't know that he is in or out.
Uh-huh.
I know that Glenn Poole became his stepfather. A lot of people might remember Glenn. He was actually on the ship with me. He was my first boyfriend, actually. And Glenn married Cass after Wings. And when she got pregnant with another child, he ended up in Portland as the Qualsec. He's now passed away, but I don't know if Cole is still a Scientologist or not.
Right. And I remember seeing a photograph recently of Cole Hauser at the nursery at the Fort Harrison in Clearwater when he was just a baby in diapers on a big wheel with Greg and Sandy Wilhare's kid, Darius Wilhare. And they apparently were buddies, but they were like babies. They were like 1 or 2 years old running around. Isn't that right?
Mark, that's my photograph for my next, when I do Celebrity Center, I'm putting that picture in there, or when I do the FLB. But yeah, I have that photo.
Okay. So that's for any Yellowstone fans out there. Those are the stories about coal houses. So now we'll go forward. Hold on. Okay.
All right, so we're back to the Caribbean and photo shooting, and you can see here 4 messengers around the Commodore,
They're
and
all
then
on white, right?
they're in the whites, yeah, except for
and
the
then
one
and
on the left.
Hubbard is sitting down on the right side.
Yes, the messengers have the visors on and the shorts, except for there's one in the back on the right, Terry, without the visor. But the guy on the left, that's Alan Voss. He was not a messenger, but he's wearing white because we're in the Caribbean. It was cooler. But yeah, that's a full look at the messenger uniforms.
Okay.
And then there's just some more. Way in the far right, that's Pat and Trudy there, dressed like as Adam and Eve. And then the messengers doing their jobs on the photo shoot. And then there's Hubbard is there on the left. Okay. And then here he is, Hubbard, just setting the scene for another shoot. And this was before we were wearing the whites. You can see that they're all in jeans and not wearing the white uniforms. We used to wear civilian clothes at first.
Looks like they're having a bonfire. They're going to have a bonfire on the right. Is that right?
Well, that was the setup for the Volunteer Minister's Handbook photograph sequence.
I see. Okay.
And then here is my sister on the right and Clarice Barnett, Shelley's older sister on the left, Shelley Miscavige's sister.
Right. And Hubbard in the middle, of course.
Yes.
Okay.
And there is my sister-in-law, Doreen Doe, in the back with Hubbard in the front.
There you get a good look at the uniforms, too. The shorts, the white shirts, the long knee socks, and then platform shoes, right?
Yeah, they were platform shoes. And imagine having to run up and down steps in platform shoes, but we did it.
Yeah. Okay, now I wanted to ask you, because I finished reading Barefaced Messiah by Russell Miller again this week, and Doreen, your ex-sister-in-law, Doreen Gillham, she's quoted in there several times, and she tells a story, and I wanted to ask you about that. She tells a story of doing regarding Arthur Hubbard. Do you remember that story, or do you want me to reiterate it?
Yeah, go ahead and tell the story.
Yeah, she says in the book that one time Hubbard sent her on a message run to Arthur Hubbard, his youngest son. And Arthur was assigned the duty of taking care of L. Ron Hubbard's motorcycles. He had a big Harley Davidson and other ones. So he would keep them clean and somehow maintain them, I guess. But and this was on the ship. And anyway, Hubbard sent Doreen to go inspect the motorcycles and see if Arthur was taking care of them. And so she took a white rag and she ran it over one of the motorcycles and brought it back and showed Hubbard that it was dirty. So he got upset and he told Doreen to go tell Arthur that he was assigned a condition of liability. So she went and she did that. And then, according to her, when she got back, shortly thereafter, Mary Sue Hubbard came storming in at her and got all over her and about, don't you assign my children, conditions and things like that. And then the next thing she said happened was Mary Sue and Hubbard were in the research room on the ship having a shouting match about it. And Hubbard basically said, "You leave my messengers alone," and blah, blah, blah. And then according to Doreen, Hubbard said, Mary Sue said, "Yes, I'll leave them alone." And he goes, "Yes, who?" And she goes, "Yes, sir." And that was basically the story.
Yeah, no, that is correct. There was a lot of conflict between the messengers and Mary Sue. And as the Commodore got more messengers added, with the original 4, it wasn't that bad. She tolerated us. But then it got 7. All right, she tolerated more. But then when it became 13, 13 messengers and even more. Then she started having problems with it. And yeah, we were around him more than his kids. And anytime she wanted to see him, see her husband, there was messengers there. So she definitely had an issue with the messengers. And there was another time you bring up what happened with Mary Sue and the Hubbard and her getting involved in something. Well, can you go to the next picture?
Yeah.
Here is Hubbard and Jill Goodman. Jill was a messenger as well. She usually worked under me on my watch. And I've always felt that Hubbard had kind of figured out each of the messengers, and he knew which messengers to send on what message runs, and just to see what they would do.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so he sent Jill on a message run, and he was really upset with his daughter, Diana, who was over all the Division 6s of Scientology.
Division 6 is the public division. That's where organizations get new public into Scientology. It's where you would try and attract people and to come in and become Scientologists. Anyway, go ahead.
Right. So he was really upset with her, and he sent Jill on a message. And in the message, he said, "Spit at her."
Spit on who?
Spit on Diana. Now, I know if it was me that ran the message, I would have given her the message and said, "He was so upset he told me to spit on you." But I wouldn't have done it. Well, Jill did it, and Diana screamed. So the next thing you know is Mary Sue is now grabbing Jill from behind by the neck and yells at Diana to close the door and drags Jill away and is now going on at Jill. Hubbard comes out wondering what the hell is going on. And Mary Sue then storms downstairs to her cabin, and the Commodore is then having a messenger, a different one, go down to try and get her up, and she's refusing to come up. And then finally, I think she came up anyway. She started throwing her shoes at Jill, and then the Commodore's now trying to calm her down. He's telling her, "You don't tell my messengers what to do. You leave my messengers alone." And the messengers became a definite issue between the two of them, with the Commodore protecting us and Mary Sue going at us.
Yeah. Let me ask you a question. Were his children allowed to just come into his office whenever he was in there working, or did they have to get permission? Or Mary Sue? I mean, could they just have access anytime they wanted to Hubbard?
Mary Sue did. Mary Sue would just go in, or sometimes she'd come and say, "What's he doing?" and would tell her. And, she'd wait, and then she'd go in. His kids never, that I remember, originated going in to see him.
Okay.
He was right there, and if they wanted to, they easily could, but they didn't. I do remember, and I brought this up in another story, where Doreen ended up, she was playing around with Arthur, and she fell off a hammock and couldn't move and had to be lifted by a crane over onto the dock and put in an ambulance because she was paralyzed. And boy, did the Commodore scream at Arthur for that.
Okay. The next slide.
Oh, yeah. Okay. This was just to show. There's Diana on the right with her long, beautiful red hair, and then Mary Sue on the left. So this was just part of that story with Jill, as to that's who Jill spat at. In the middle is the Commodore, who gave that order, and then on the left is Mary Sue, who intervened.
Okay. All right. I wanted to ask you some questions, Janis, about the Commodores Messengers. Okay. When you guys started, I mean, you did watches, what you called watches with L. Ron Hubbard around the clock. There would be 2 messengers on each watch?
No.
6 hours a day, or 3?
One. When we started, it was 1 messenger every 6 hours. And the person who had the midnight watch from midnight to 6 in the morning, when the Commodore would secure, say, at 3 o'clock in the morning, he would let you off for the rest of the 3 hours. And so you got to go to bed at 3 o'clock rather than have to wait up till 6 o'clock. And then later on, that changed to where he didn't secure us and we'd have to stay there, and he had messengers 24 hours a day.
Okay, and then did it eventually increase the number of messengers per watch? Because if somebody was out running a message, he'd have to have somebody else there, right?
Yes. Then in 1970 is when it increased to one more messenger per watch. So it was 2 per watch, except for the midnight watch. It was just 1 person. And then that then got a second person. And then later on, we went to 3 messengers per watch.
Okay. Now, what I wanted to ask you, because I don't actually know the answer to this question, but eventually standing watch for L. Ron Hubbard was only one of the duties that you guys did as messengers. Like you actually had your own organization and everything, like a commanding. Explain what happened. There was a commanding officer of the Commodores Messenger organization, which was your sister, right? Was she the first
Yes.
one? Can you explain how that all worked?
Well, originally it was the messenger in charge, Commodore's messenger in charge. And then what would happen is the ethics officer would get involved with us, or the LRH personal communicator, Ken Urquhart, who was our boss, but then he delegated it to the secretary, and they would do our ethics handlings or tell us what we can and can't do, and we'd get restricted to the ship. As I said, we got restricted to the ship for our Theta Potato fight with the U.S. Navy. And, so just silly little things like that. And that's when Hubbard was like, you guys need to just handle yourselves, create your own organization so that within yourselves, you do your own ethics handlings, and your person in the qualifications division would make sure that you guys got in session up the Scientology bridge, or that you did your studies. So it then turned into where we had to just take care of ourselves.
And so then, like, was Terry your sister, the first commanding officer?
Yes, okay. Terry was.
And then what positions, or what was your responsibility aside from being a watch messenger?
Well, I was put over the Hubbard Communications Office, so I was over personnel and ethics. But then I got removed from the personnel because I didn't want to recruit people to come into this abusive situation.
Yeah. Okay. And then how about when he was going out and doing photographs and eventually movies and stuff like that? How did the messenger organization evolve? Like who would go on the shoots and who would stay? How did that work?
Yeah, those who went on the shoots were usually those who were on the watch at that time. And so if you had the afternoon watch and he was going on a shoot, you ended up going on the shoot with him.
Okay, so those photographs, we see the messengers that are around him. Those would have been the messengers who were on watch at that time.
Right.
But it looks like there's more than just 2 or 3. So sometimes would they bring more if they needed?
Yes,
more?
Then they brought in more. And the reason I'm not in any of those photos is because I was being more trained towards the organization. He kept having me go off on missions to, I went to New York to the relay office there. I went to Toronto. I went to Washington, D.C. I went to the Advanced Organization, Los Angeles, because he was obviously putting me towards the management type of information. But if I was on watch in the afternoon, I'd be there on the photo shoot.
Okay. Now you bring up a good point. Like you were sent off on these projects and stuff. These obviously were projects that he had attention on or wanted to get done, right?
Yes, but he also wanted us to get trained in all the various different areas.
Well, what I was going to say is he trusted you to go do these, right?
Yes.
Was that one of the specialties that you had?
Yes.
Okay. Yes. Did he send other messengers to do similar type things?
Yes, he sent Terry on a couple of missions. He sent Molly, so it's like different messengers just to get them the experience. And then, though we had our own organization, he then assigned us each to different parts of the ship, different organizational parts of the ship, so that we would be responsible for that division. Though they had their division head and their own executive secretaries above them, he then had messengers assigned to those areas. And he would hold us responsible, not the execs or not the captain. He held the messenger responsible if that area landed on his plate.
Right. So then you'd expanded responsibilities rather than more than just standing and messenger, go run this here, messenger, go do this. You guys actually started taking on more management functions, right? Because then the reason I bring this up is because, again, I know some of the history, and also I just finished Barefaced Messiah, but it sounded like Hubbard relied heavily on his messengers to get projects or missions done when he couldn't trust other people to do it, right? In other words, you guys were highly trusted.
Yes. Well, and even when we moved to La Quinta and later to Gillham Hot Springs, where the gold is now, he would have us do inspections and then do up programs on how to handle that area and get it so it's operating on its own without any executive interference. So, so we got involved. We got involved in so much, it's not even funny. It was like we were everywhere.
Right. And my point being is that he trusted you guys to get it done. I mean, he could have picked a Sea Org member to do it, or somebody else like in management or whatever. But if it was something that he knew he needed to get done, he would send one of his messengers to take care of it. Right.
Yes.
Which eventually led to David Miscavige taking over, when the Guardian's office had to be taken over and disbanded, it was assigned to Miscavige to take over and do that, right?
Well, he was supposed to run those projects and those missions. He was the mission ops.
Right. But he was the one that was trusted to do it. That's all I'm trying to say. In other words, Hubbard more and more relied on the messengers to take care of problems that he saw that he needed to get handled, but he didn't want to have to personally do it. So then he would just assign a messenger that he could trust to do that. Right.
Yes. Yeah. And we did other things too, whereas like someone new comes aboard the ship and the quartermaster would give us a note saying who they were, and we'd give it to him. And then he's like, go and welcome them aboard. And then he was like, make it a standing order. Anyone coming aboard, the messenger is to go down and welcome them aboard. And anyone leaving, we were to tell them good luck and Godspeed. And we actually had, when he came back from New York in September 73, he had us get logbooks. And we had
to what?
A logbook, a log to write things down.
Yeah.
And we had to log every message run, everything he did. If he went for a walk on deck, we'd put the time, out walking around the deck, talking to blah, blah. And everything he did, we put in those logbooks from 1973 all the way forward until he left in 1980. There are logbooks of every message run and everything he did. And it was to document what he was doing. Because at the time, some lady at the Manor in Los Angeles is accusing him of going up to the 7th floor and raping her. Mm-hmm. He was on the ship. We have it all there. It's all documented.
Got it. Yeah, I got it. Okay, great. Well, thanks for clearing that up and answering those questions. Listen, everybody, we're going to go to questions and answers here in a few minutes. So if you've got a question, go ahead and put it in the chat. Write question. We've already got several starred that we're going to answer. If you want to super chat us or super sticker us, please do so. We appreciate the donations. It helps us continue to do the show and put out these videos. And also subscribe. Please subscribe. If any of you are here and you haven't subscribed to our channel, just click that subscribe button, click that like button, and it helps us get the story out to other people. And what we're going to do now, before we go to the questions and answers, we're going to do the giveaway. Janis, you want to show everybody what we're going to be giving away this time?
We're doing my grocery bag.
It's got photographs of Janis's books on both sides. It's a canvas bag, and we're going to give that away here. So if you want to go ahead and start, get in the chat, bag me, whatever you want to put in there, but start hitting that comments, okay? And shortly we're gonna pick a winner. So go ahead and do that. What do you want to say, Janis?
If you live in California and take it to the grocery store, it'll save you 10 cents a plastic bag.
Yeah, and if you win, obviously we'll get your contact information and we'll send it out to you, and we'll do that. So I'm waiting for you guys to get in the chat room. We got a lot of people watching right here. So if you want to win, go ahead and get in the chat room, and then I'll do a countdown, and then we'll pick a winner. Okay. So go ahead. I'm going to give it it's a little bit of delay while you're doing that. And to tell you more things, we've got we've got a great interview we're going to do tomorrow, which we'll keep confidential for right now. But that's going to be coming out next week, and I think you'll really be surprised and happy with the person that we're interviewing. And then also we're going to be doing a live stream on Saturday evening, and we're hopeful that it's going to be with Apostate Alex in England. He's working out his schedule so he can join us Saturday. Same time, 2:00 in the afternoon, West Coast time, 5:00 Eastern time, right? Or no, 4:00, right? Isn't it later? 4:00 Pacific, and it's 4:00 Pacific and 7:00 Eastern, and we'll put out down that. Anyway, go ahead and enter in the chat if you want to win a bag, and we'll pick somebody here. Okay, so I'm going to count down 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, so you guys ready? All right, so here we go.
Some people already started.
What's that?
Some people already started.
Yeah, I know. So go ahead and jump in there. Mine's not moving, so I don't see anybody going in there. Here's some new comments here. Anyway, just go ahead, guys. All right, so I'm going to count down 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Jen wins the bag. Bag me, please. Congratulations, Jen. She's a regular watcher of our show. We really appreciate it. So anyway, Jen, if you would please hold on a second here. I'll put it on here. You can email Janis, right? Janis, go ahead. That's your
email me at Janis Gillham Grady, 2 L's in Gillham, at gmail.com. Send me your address, and I will get the bag out to you.
Okay. Congratulations, Jen.
And Donna, send me yours as well so I can get it out to you for helping me tell the story.
Okay, great. That's great. All right, so we're going to go to questions and answers here, people. So I'm going to go ahead, Janis, if you'll star any new ones that come in. I've already got a bunch starred, and I'll pull them up here.
Okay.
And we'll go to a live Q&A here. 1 second here. I went the wrong way. Okay. All right, we'll start with the first one. 1 second here. Okay, we've got a super chat. Lonesome Squirrel, a.k.a. COBILF. Thank you so much for the super chat. We appreciate it. And it says, I read somewhere that Mark Yeager's dad or stepdad got involved with David Mayo at the Advanced Ability Center, and it was a flap. Do you remember this and what happened to him?
Yes, I do remember that. I'm trying to remember the dad's name. It'll come to me, but
I know it was
start with a Z.
He used to be married to my dad's second wife.
Oh.
Yeah. No, exactly. I can't remember it now either. Anyway.
Yeah. Anyway, he did get involved, and he was actually Ziegler.
Yeah, that's right. John Ziegler.
John
Ziegel.
John Ziegel.
Yeah.
Anyway, he did get involved in mixed practices and attacking the church. And Mark was pulled in and had to disconnect from his mom and his stepdad. And at that, what's interesting, at that time was when Flo Barnett was going over to the ACC, and that was Shelley's mother. Mm-hmm. And so you had both Miscavige and Yeager with potential trouble source situations. And I'm sure that was affecting both of them, especially Miscavige having a situation like that, because Yeager had to be removed from post until he got it all resolved, where with Miscavige, it wasn't really known yet about Flo, or those who should have known didn't know about it yet. So I'm sure that was also something going on with Miscavige to prevent it being found out about. But yeah, both of them had problems like that at that time.
And just for people who don't know what we're talking about exactly, David Mayo was the senior CS case supervisor international, and he got declared a suppressive person, kicked out of the Sea Organization, Scientology, and then he connected up with these other Scientology, executives who also got declared and kicked out, and he set up his own. Basically, it was a parallel organization delivering Scientology services at a greatly reduced price. He
Right.
was, the senior levels and that type of thing were being delivered, auditing and processing and training, but at a much cheaper price than what Scientology was paying. And they opened up an organization. I think it was in Santa Barbara, California. And so it was attracting tremendous attention from Scientology and the Religious Technology Center, with private investigators and infiltrating them to try and shut them down. They tried to, they went after them legally and all that. And eventually they were successful. They shut them down. But that's why it was a big deal that Mark Yeager's, whatever, they got involved in it. And same thing with Shelley's mother getting involved with it. It was a big flap. Anyway.
Well, yeah, they were booming. They were getting more people in for services than the whole of the Scientology.
Because it was more affordable.
Yeah, exactly. And they were happier.
Yeah. Thank you so much for that super chat, Lonesome Squirrel. We'll go to the next question here. Okay, Love Food Kitchen. Was Otto Roos very tall or was Mary Sue very short? It's difficult to judge her height because she was often next to men or kids in photos. Ron looks very tall, but I think Janis said he was average height.
Yeah, Ron was probably about 5'11". He wasn't 6'2" or anything like that.
Like your husband Paul was taller than
Yeah, my husband is 6'1". Yeah. My son's 6'3".
How about Mary Sue?
Mary Sue is probably about 5'5", 5'6".
Were you taller than her or the same height? Or?
Well, I was younger. I was 11.
Oh, I mean now. Like, yeah.
No, she was probably about my height.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And Otto, was he very tall? That's the other question he asked.
Otto, probably about 6 foot.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks a lot for catching. Next question here is from SPTV Watcher. Your channel and memories are both entertaining and enlightening. Please keep it up. Some people will never be satisfied. Please don't apologize to them. We love your channel just the way it is. Oh, thank you so much, SPTV Watcher.
Thank you. Very appreciated.
Yeah, and we appreciate everybody that's watching, and we're trying to be as even-handed as we can, and we're trying to tell our truth. So anyway. All right, next question here. I think this is Linda P. Golan. Was I under the impression that Ken Urquhart did not like Mary Sue?
Let's just say they had their differences. And we're going to have Ken back on, so we'll bring that up to him, and you can get his direct answer.
Okay, thanks very much, Linda. All right, the next question here. This is from Angus McTavish. Question: can you talk about green birthday game booklets that we had in the organizations in the 90s? They helped me a lot back then. Who compiled them and where to find a copy? Thanks. Well, we weren't there in the 90s.
We left in 1990. I left to August 1990.
And I was September 1990.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I probably was some kind of a birthday game way to keep track of the points. They had a whole point system based on your statistics, and it was kind of, you needed to keep track of it, and I'm sure that's what those booklets were, but I don't have any firsthand knowledge. Okay, please put in more questions, people, and then we'll answer them. Janis, you're looking for more ones, right? More questions?
Yes.
Okay, next question here.
Yeah.
Jay Warren, is it true L. Ron Hubbard smoked cool cigarettes?
Non-filtered cool cigarettes.
Yep, and he was a chain smoker, right?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, he didn't smoke from one cigarette to another, lighting it up, but he always lit him with the lighter. But yeah, he chain smoked a lot.
Did the smoke, like, could you smell the smoke in his office and stuff? Like, would it get pretty smoky when you'd walk in on a message run?
No, we'd have the windows open on both sides, so you'd have a sea breeze going through and the blowers going.
Okay.
But there's times when he'd be writing, and he would just burn cigarettes in the ashtray while he's writing away. There's some he wouldn't even puff on because he would just be into it and just writing and writing, and his leg moving up and down, and the cigarette would just burn in the ashtray.
Okay, I just thought of a good question regarding cigarette smoking. You and a lot of the messengers smoked cigarettes, right, in those days?
Yeah, we did.
Did you ever smoke a cigarette with L. Ron Hubbard? Did you ever guys have a smoke break together?
Oh, no, I'd never smoked in front of him. I was a minor. I don't even know if he knew if we smoked.
I was going to ask you that. Did he even know that you smoked?
I don't know.
So you were like the kids sneaking around in the back to have a smoke.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, we'd go to the bathroom and puff away.
Okay, Jay Warren, thanks very much. Next, we've got a super sticker from Stephanie Sandoval. Stephanie, thank you so much. We really appreciate the support. And if anybody else wants to super sticker us, super chat, please go right ahead. Okay, we will accept it all. And the next one, we've got a super chat. This is from Goldie. Hi, Goldie. She's our moderator. I just can't tell you how much I enjoy these old photos. They really bring the early years to life for us, and we really appreciate you guys putting in the work it takes to put this all together. Thank you, Goldie. We really appreciate all the work you do for us as well. But yeah, Janis has got this treasure trove of photos. Go ahead, Janis. What do you want to say about it?
You know, Goldie, I was sitting here talking, and I remembered there was a story I didn't tell, and I wish I had a photo of a cockroach. That would have reminded me of the story. But on the ship, we used to have what was called the cockroach derby. And it was the job of the messengers to go and inspect the whole ship. And if we found a cockroach in someone's office space or their berthing space, they got fined $1 for the cockroach. And so we had this tin that we collected money in. And if you're on watch, you had to be an on-watch messenger, and someone found a nest. They had to come and get a messenger to come down and inspect while they killed that nest. And we used to have to verify that the nest was fully killed off, and then they would get $10 or $20 or whatever, depending on the size of the nest, for having killed it. And this is how we worked to get rid of the cockroaches on the ship, was through the cockroach derby. And I use these photographs in order to help me remember stories, but thank you.
Okay, great. Thanks very much, Goldie. Okay, I'm going to go to the next one here. 1 second here. Janis, there's some comments in the comment section about, L. Ron Hubbard was obviously a dirty old man that you guys dressed up, in those uniforms, stuff like that. Did he ever physically abuse any of the messengers personally? Like, did you ever hear of any stories or anything like that?
I only know of one story, and that was from my sister, who said he tried to kiss her when she was 16. Otherwise, every other messenger has always said he never laid a hand on us sexually. And I know, and I told this before, I'd come back from a mission, and it was the end of my watch, and we go in, reporting for duty, sir, and my relief is here, sir. And I went in and I said, my relief is here, sir. And he was pointing to his cheek, and I'm like, why is he pointing to his cheek? Well, apparently while I was gone, a new thing happened where the messenger, when he did that, was to go and give him a kiss on the cheek. And that's probably the max of anything with me, is having to give him a kiss on the cheek sometimes after watch.
So you never saw him be sexually offensive with any of the messengers or the young girls or anything like that?
No.
Okay. And as far as your clothes go, okay, I'm just, the people who are asking about this, I don't know if you had children or teenagers, okay? But teenagers dress provocatively when they hit puberty, okay? They start trying to attract other men and other boys, you know what I mean? Particularly boys, teenage boys. And there were boys on that ship too. They weren't just girls, So I don't know about you, but I know a lot of daughters that would get dressed up and the parents would have to say, that's too risque, right?
Yeah, but you know what?
So I don't think it's really fair to criticize them the way they dressed. And remember, this is the 1970s. disco,
Hot pants.
hot pants, platform shoes, roller disco. That was the style. So it's different. It'd be different today. If you see the people, the way kids dress today, it's much different than it was back then. Anyway, go ahead, Janis.
Yeah, but Mark, I have to say, I'm fine on wearing hot pants and tie tops or, whatever when I'm not on duty in my own time.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't wear that when we were in Europe because that's not the dress style. But we were in the Caribbean, I would wear it there. When I'd come to the US on leave, I would wear it like there. But I did not feel it was appropriate to be on watch representing someone dressed like that because of what it did and what went through the men's heads when they would see you dressed like that. I don't think it was right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I was just trying to defend you girls. You know what I mean?
I understand that.
I mean, do you remember? You would probably remember how your daughter used to dress when she was a teenager too. Not like that, but yeah. That's all. That's all I was trying to say.
But I think there's a difference between duty and time off.
No, I understand. Okay. Next question here. Question, Janis. Do you remember Brian Levman in Toronto?
Yes, in Toronto. He was the deputy Grady in Canada. And his wife, Rosie, when she came to the ship for her internship, she was my auditor. I got along really well with her. And yes, Brian was there. I did a mission to Toronto, and Brian was over the GO while I was there. Yeah, I remember Brian Levman.
Okay, good. Thank you so much for that question. Next question. Yeah. Martin Ottman. Hi, Martin. Question for Janis. How was your relationship with Jerry Armstrong? Are you still in contact with him? How was the relationship between him and Mike Rinder on the ship?
Well, funny you should ask, because Jerry and I were just emailing each other last night. So Jerry and I get along very well. When he was married to my sister, we didn't get along well. But, since then, we get along great. Every now and again, we'll email each other. I emailed him saying, hey, Jerry, was it 1975 we all took that leave of absence to Cass and Wings's place? And he wrote me back, yes, it was. So he just confirmed it for me. And then his relationship with Mike Rinder on the ship, Mike Rinder was in the Flag Bureau, so he was in management. Jerry was in the ship's organization, and he outfaced and he dealt with a lot of the locals. So they wouldn't have had a lot of connection. And I remember at a party once, talking to Mike and talking to someone else and say, well, you guys remember each other from the ship? And they're like, no, Jenny, we don't. You're the one who knew everybody, but we were in our organization and they were over here. So not everyone got along and knew everyone, kind of like the Messengers did.
Okay. Thank you for your question, Martin. All right, we got Irma Webb here. Question, Janis, do you have any stories about John Osley?
I have photos of his wedding on the ship, and when I do the wedding series, I'll bring up his photos.
Okay. Next question here is from Freddie R. Question, what was the mission to Toronto about? I met Amos Jessup when he became the executive director in 1975, I think.
Yeah, I'm the one who put Amos Jessup on post as the executive director or commanding officer of Toronto Org. We went up there in January 1975. I've forgotten who was the executive director. He was from the FEBC. I remembered him on the ship. But Emil Gilbert was from Toronto. Anyway, there was about 5 executives we had to remove. Jack Manning was one of them. Emil might have been there. I remember Ron Savage was the CS. Anyway, so yeah, we put Amos Jessup on post.
Okay, thanks very much. Next question. Colonel Brock's in the house. Hi, Colonel Brock. Janis, was Ron a competent mariner?
I would have to say yes. he could feel the ship vibrations. He could feel the sea and which way the sea was going, and he'd have message runs going to the bridge or the engine room, and he wouldn't end those message runs until he was satisfied the situation was handled. And he could go up on the bridge, and though he accused the bridge staff many times of having lost us, I always felt they knew where we were, or at least they could point to the chart and say we're here. but many times they were accused of having lost us at sea, and he would have to come up there and get out the sextant and figure out where we are against the stars and say, okay, here we are. And it was usually where they already knew we were.
Okay, thanks, Colonel Bark. Next, we've got a super chat from Calico26. Did Shelley and her sister spend a lot of time? It says today on the ship, but on the ship is probably the question.
Yeah, well, we're talking. The ship was purchased in 1967. Clarice, her sister, came on the ship in 1970. We moved off the ship in 1975. Shelley came probably around 1972, 2 years after Clarice. So, yeah, from 1970 or 1972 to 1975, if you lived on the ship, you lived on the ship. And rarely did we move ashore.
Okay. Thanks so much for that super chat, Calico26. And we've got a super sticker from Linda Golan, enjoying all the vlogs from you both. Thank you so much, Linda. We really appreciate you watching, and thank you so much for your support. All right, we'll go to the next question here. I've got Lonesome Squirrel, aka COB Bill F. Question: where can I get one of those CMO uniforms? 32 by 32 men's pant size 10.5 shoe.
You'll have to go to the Bahamas and find a tailor.
You guys had them made, tailor-made?
Yeah, they were tailor-made.
Wow.
And they had the Sea symbol on the collars and on the visor.
Did you have enough to like a week's worth of uniforms, or did you have to clean them constantly?
No, we had maybe 3 sets.
Yeah, so, I mean, it's like. Go ahead.
Living on the ship, we didn't have a washing machine.
Well, I was going to ask, how did you wash your clothes?
Well, we had the CMO EPFs, the new people. They would wash our uniforms for us. Or if you needed to wash it yourself, your cabin had a little sink in it, and so you'd wash it in the sink and then just hang it on an overhead pipe to dry.
And it was that way. Go ahead.
Or if you needed your clothes fast, you would roll them up in a towel and jump up and down on the towel to get as much water out as possible. And sometimes you put on wet pants.
I was going to say, years later, when we got uniforms towards the end, if you didn't have EPF service, you only got like 2 or 3 shirts, like if you were in gold or whatever, And so, and I remember when I was not in David Miscavige's good graces, like you said, Julie and I would wash our whites. Like we had to wear whites in the summertime, and we would wash them in our sink and hang them up, and hopefully they would dry. You know what I mean?
Right.
Anyway, thanks for that question. All right, next one here. Question: did Janis know Ralph Hilton at the ship, and how was he?
Yeah, Ralph was a young English lad, and he was an electrician, and later on became electronics, and he was the guy everyone went to for e-meters to be calculated and checked. Yeah, I knew Ralph, and then later on he lived in Switzerland.
Yeah, he became a field auditor, and he audited for years. He's no longer alive, unfortunately.
No, he passed away a few years
ago. But we reconnected with him on the internet after we got out of the Sea Org. I remember that.
Yeah.
But he was very successful as a field auditor in Switzerland. Okay, and then this Calico 26 came back. Sorry, it was a typo. I meant Shelley and her sister spent a lot of time together on the ship. Sorry.
Not really.
Yeah. Okay.
No, not really. They didn't spend a lot of time.
Okay. Thank you, Calico 26. Let's go to the next one here. All right, this is from Tim Harris. Question: why didn't LRH just stay on the ship for the rest of his life, say in international waters?
Okay. two reasons. One is a Mary Sue's reason, and one is LRH's reason. Mary Sue had some physical issues, and the Commodore wanted to get her a house and let her live, kind of not have to be in small quarters on the ship, get her a place where she could be happy. She obviously didn't like it that much on the ship. You know, she had her cabin, she had her office, and then there was the lounge that she and LRH had, and that was pretty much it. And then when we were in Curacao in mid-75, Hubbard actually had some breathing issues. He had chest pains. And so Kimma and Mary Sue talked him into going to the hospital. He was refusing to go. They finally got his agreement, and Kimma pretty much overrode him and just got him to the hospital, where he ended up in intensive care for probably 3 days, just in a coma. And I'll go into that in a whole nother story. But after that was when it was decided Mary Sue wanted to move ashore, because if that happened while we were at sea, there was no hospital or any way to keep him alive.
Right.
So at that point, it was decided, let's move ashore.
Well, one other point that was made in Barefaced Messiah, I don't know if this is true or not, but it seems like it might be. You guys started running out of ports that would accept you to come in, because you can't stay at sea all the time. You've got to come in and get fuel and supplies and all that. And like you kept getting, like you got kicked out of Madeira, where the rock festival was, right? And
yeah.
There were other ports that you guys went to, Corfu. You couldn't go back there anymore, right? And
exactly.
That had a lot to do with the government. The government going after Hubbard, that had a lot to do with it, right?
Well, it was another point.
Mm-hmm.
So getting Mary Sue a place, if anything happened to Hubbard and we were at sea, we were in big trouble. And then, we were running out of ports to go to.
Yeah. Okay, thanks, Tim, for that question. Next, we've got Denver Stevo. Hey, Denver Stevo, how you doing? Denver Stevo loves you both. And, of course, your 4.7 thousand subscribers are 1,000% invited to join me at Denver Stevo 2. All hail Janis, Mark, and Xenu. Thank you, Denver Stevo. We appreciate your support. That's good. And then we got another question here. If you've got any other questions, go ahead and get in the chat. We're going to be wrapping up soon here. So if you've got anything, go ahead and get in there. And Janis, if you'll star them, that would be great. This is from Diane Jean Valencillo. Question: I know it was bad without your mom, but was being a messenger fun at times? For your info, smash the like button and join, because you all are awesome. Well, thank you so much, Diane. Everybody smash that like button, right, Janis?
Yeah, smash it. Smash the like, smash the subscribe, and do the notifications. To answer your question, there could be fun times and there were bad times. It was a mix. And there were times I didn't want to be there and the times I liked being there. Before going on watch, because Hubbard was so unpredictable, I'd come upstairs and I'd stand at the bottom of the last set of stairs to go up to his office, and I would tell myself, I can do this. I'm going to get through another watch, and I'm not going to have any flaps on my watch. I'm going to end with a well done. And that's what I did pretty much every day before I'd go up those final stairs. And it was to put myself in a mental place, I guess, to control the watch and pull it off. I definitely missed my mom. I'll be real honest. I've not said this to anyone, but every birthday I cried. And I would try and make it through a year. I'd go, okay, I've cried this time. Now I'd try to make it a whole year without crying. And then I guess my birthday would come and I'd let it loose. But I hope that answers your question.
Okay. Thank you very much, Diane Jean. All right, we've got some more questions here. And this one is from Zinmu and the Body Thetans. Question: was there any sort of sport LRH was into as a fan or as an active, like
No,
soccer or anything like that?
no,
What
not
was
at
his
all.
What was his form of exercise, if at all?
Walking around the prom
Smoking
deck.
cigarettes? I'm just joking.
Yeah, walking around the prom deck,
Yeah,
using one of those bull. What are they called? They, you push them in, and
yeah.
yeah. Or we'd have to stand there, and he'd push us around, and we're trying to stop him from pushing us. So yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for that question. Next question, Colonel Brock. When can we be paying members? That's good. I'm glad you asked because we'll be announcing that this coming Saturday on the live stream. We're setting up a membership, and the way we decided to do the membership, where people can join, is we don't want to deny anybody any of the content, and we're not, but we want to give recognition to those people who want to support our channel, want to donate, and want to be members of our channel. And then we're also going to give you more access, okay? Because we're going to set up one of the levels where there'll be a monthly, that level members will do a monthly group chat, okay, or a Zoom call. And then for the very highest level, Janis and I decided that we would do a monthly one-on-one with whoever's a member in that, where you can ask us any questions for like 10 or 15 minutes one-on-one, just you and us. So we'll be announcing the different levels and the prices. It's going to be very reasonable. We're not out here to, make it very expensive, but we're also not here to deny anybody else seeing what's on our channel. So anyway.
Yeah, we're just trying to figure out the level of peelers.
Yeah, we're trying to figure out the
Onion
names.
peelers.
We have 3 levels, right? And we figured the level would probably be like the master onion peelers. And then the intro levels would be onion peeler supporters or something. So if you guys got any suggestions for the names, just write them in the chat. Thanks, Colonel Brock. Next question here. Martin Ottman question from Janis. Were the L rundowns ever first delivered to the public on the ship, or did this happen after the flag service org came ashore? If so, did the flagship org deliver all 3 rundowns?
Yes, they were delivered on the ship. We actually had just a handful of FCCIs, which is the Flag Case Completion Intensive. We maybe at the max had 12 at one time. And the people would come to the ship. And that's actually the money that mostly supported us, was these few FCCIs who would come and get auditing. Some, were there for like a year, or just kind of hung out with the crew and got their daily sessions. And
that's also another reason why they went ashore too, right? Because you didn't have enough space to handle the demand, right?
Well, yeah, we were running out of room. The ship didn't have enough berthing anymore. There was so many crew on board. So yeah, that was another factor. And it was not expected when we moved ashore. It was thought the Fort Harrison would be plenty big for the staff and the public, but it just took off like crazy. And it was like then panicking, trying to more space, more hotels.
If I recall, in 1976, when I joined the Sea Org, when it came to fly, I think each L there were 3 of them. Each one was like $10,000. Like you paid for the L. It wasn't an hourly thing at that time. You just paid. It was 10 grand for each L. So if you got all 3, it was like 30 grand. It was expensive in those days, but people raved about those services. Okay. We're getting here close to the end. Any other questions? Go ahead and get in here.
Go
ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I'm ahead of you. Sorry.
Oh, sorry about that. Okay. Mac Murdoch Kilgal. I don't know how to pronounce that. Question: how long did it take for you to feel safe enough to live again? Well, once I got out, I felt good, but then, we were, like I said in the earlier video we did earlier this week, I didn't really feel financially secure for a couple of years. And that's when I started to feel safe, was when I didn't have to worry about, where if I had a roof over my head or whatever.
Well, and with them fair gaming you to try and cut across your income.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It was, but that's a whole nother story. We will get to that. Trust me, we were not. Look, the people that speak out and stuff like Mark and Claire and all that, and they've had a lot of fair gaming and all that. We're the original OGs when it comes to fair game, and we'll go over that. Not to put down them at all. I mean, they've gotten a lot too, but yeah, no, they came after us full force, and we'll go into that at some point. All right, next question, Martin Ottman again. Another question for Janis. How many public Scientologists were approximately on the ship for courses or auditing at any given time in 74, 75, 1974, 1975?
Probably around 10 to 12 is what I remember. They had a little lounge on the starboard side of the B deck, and it was small, few couches, and they all fit there and would hang out there, mostly all day talking to each other between sessions.
Where would they eat and where did they sleep?
Well, they ate with the crew, and they slept in the two bunk bed cabins.
Oh, really?
And when it was Liberty, they took Liberty with us.
But they didn't have any palatial, suites or anything like that.
Oh no, they had a cabin, and if they paid enough, they had a cabin to themselves, or they shared. But they were bunk beds, twin beds as bunks.
Did they, if they paid enough, would they move out a married couple and clean it up to have the FCCI stay there?
Yeah, if a space was needed for an FCCI, yes.
Yeah. And then that reminds me, what was L. Ron Hubbard's cabin like? Was it big, or obviously it must have been bigger than most others? But I mean, what was it like?
His cabin was the size of 4 cabins and a corridor, and the same as Mary Sue's, and theirs was 2 cabins next to each other. They were staterooms with one bathroom with a door into where the tub was, and then each had their own little toilet and sink rooms. Okay. But it was the size of 4 cabins.
Okay. Thank you, Martin. Next question here. Victoria Morris question, since leaving the cult, do you find nothing worries you anymore? Well, nothing. I don't worry about anything in Scientology anymore, and I don't worry about any attacks or anything like that. I'm like anybody else. I mean, you worry about, your future in terms of financially, and now I'm retired and all that. I actually am set up really comfortably, so I'm not too worried about it, and I just take one day at a time and just try to keep on living. How about you, Janis?
Yeah, when I first left, I worried about a lot. I was going to have a child, and I had no money. I was barefoot and pregnant, and and then the church was following us, and it was just a matter of trying to build and get step out of comfort zone all the time. And then when I went on my own as a mortgage broker, I would just tell myself every day, I can do this, I can do this. And I just keep pushing myself forward, so that I got to the point where I do fine now. I don't have to worry about things. Or if I still worry about making things on time. And I kind of sometimes get kind of panicky if I'm going to be a few minutes late. And I think that's my biggest worry these days, is making sure I'm on time, because I have to be on time.
Fabulous. Okay, great. Thank you so much for that, Victoria. And let's see here. We got somebody wrote a comment. The Menya, it's called a bullworker.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And then Diane Jean Valencilio says, question, you answered my question, and now I wish I could give you a hug, or I could hug you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. You guys are so kind. Thanks, Diane. Next question here from Cal. Question about past lives again. Was there any occurrences of proven past life recalls? Not that I'm aware of. It was just something, the faith for me. It was always like, it's something if you believed it, you believed it, but it wasn't like, oh, I need scientific proof of this. It was not, I didn't ever think of that when I was a Scientologist.
Yeah. After my mom died, a lot of people used to shove their babies in my face to see if there was any recognition. But crazy.
Okay, Cal, thanks very much. Question here. Barando, question, Janis, when you left COs, when you left the Church of Scientology, were you ever fair gamed? Absolutely.
Yes, yes, I was fair gamed, and we will do a whole video on that.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks very much for that question. Next question here. Somebody suggesting junior peelers. Junior peelers. Thanks. We'll figure it out. We'll get
Yeah.
something worked out here. All right. Next question from poet Brian Lucas. Comment: it should be apprentice, journeyman, and master onion peelers.
We
Yeah, that
thought of
was something
that.
I was talking about that because we were talking about carpenters. What are they called? You know what I mean? And yeah, that's good. And we'll figure something out on that. Thanks very much, Brian. All right, and then we've got Love Food Kitchen question. Janis, do you have enough stories and photos to do a whole episode on the Gillham family story? Your entire family influenced Church Scientology so much, but I don't mind. I don't know if you already said all you have to say.
I have plenty more to say and plenty more photographs.
Yeah,
So
she does.
hang in there. Write this out with me, and I'll get to it one of these days.
Yeah, and we're going to do one on my family too. My family's history in Scientology. My family's not famous in Scientology, but we're going to tell the story of my family and what Scientology did to my family. So we're going to cover that as well, and I have photos too. So thanks, Love for Kitchen. Gina, super chat. Thank you so much, Gina. Thank you both so much for sharing. We appreciate you. Thank you. Well, we appreciate you too, Gina, and everybody who's watching. Thanks very much. Question, Michael Feldman. Question: who were several of the best auditors that you knew?
Personally, now that someone reminded me of Rosie Levman, I loved Rosie as an auditor, and Lisa Gerber, and but there were always the others who were the class 12s who were considered the best, but I had my favorites: Lisa Gerber, Lisa Klingval, and Rosie and Linda Powers. Those were my four favorite.
Yeah, and I had favorites too. The thing is like Bruce Hines, who he's out and he speaks out. He was one of my auditors when I was on my upper OT levels, and I liked him. I had Adrienne Ambron. That was Abby Ambron's wife. She did a lot of my Ned for OT's auditing, and I liked her. And to be honest with you, the one of the people that is supposedly watching Shelley Miscavige, Antonella Tizzi. She's an Italian woman, and I loved Antonella. She was awesome. I was getting sec checked by her, but I loved it. She was just a joy to be with, and she was very caring and understanding. And then I have to say, the first auditor I ever had in Washington, D.C., when I was a teenager, she audited me up through most of my grade levels. Her name was Carol Peters, and I have no idea if she ever stayed or what happened, but she was great, so.
I will add that James Byrne did most of my grades audition at St. Hill when I was 11 years old, and I definitely enjoyed that. And that's a different James Byrne that changed over the years that people now don't like.
Okay. All right. And then this is the last one I see here, Janis. Whiteness, maybe SOB, cry, and wall levels of
sob, cry, and wail.
Sob, cry, and wail. I'm used to thinking it's an abbreviation. Sob, cry, and wail levels of onion peelers. Okay. Well, we'll take that all into consideration. And anyway, I want to thank you all for your questions. Janis, before we go, I wanted to mention your company, Outback Naturals. Why don't you tell people about your company, Outback Naturals, because we've had some people that got some of your products and they really like them. So go ahead and I'll run through the slides for you.
I have
three.
Cool. I have 3 products right now. One is the original Instant Cal Mag in plain and raspberry lemon. Those who have been around Scientology for years are familiar with Cal Mag, calcium magnesium made with vinegar. But the Instant Cal Mag is not made with vinegar. This is it here, the picture of it. But that's for those who need calcium and magnesium. The magnesium helps the calcium simulate into the body. And it's used for relaxation. And when I was pregnant, I drank a lot of it. And then you can go back to the Koala Calm. This is just straight magnesium. This is for people who have a lot of calcium already in their diet, the magnesium will help the calcium go into the body and simulate better. And I actually take it every night. I use the apple cinnamon flavor, and it helps me sleep better. I take that with vitamin B1, and I sleep all through the night.
Okay.
And then I have plant source minerals. These are humates, and I've actually had a lot of success with people saying it's helped their gut. And then some people just say, wow, it gives me more energy. So, and then I've got one now in manufacturing, which is a joint formula because we're all getting old. So it's going to be a joint formula to help the joints.
Great.
And
So
that should come out in a few weeks.
You can go right down at the bottom. It says www.outbacknaturals.com, right, Janice? And they can order that, and it gets shipped out to them, right?
Yes.
Okay, great. And then
Yes.
one other thing I want to mention is, don't forget Janice's first book here, Commodores Messenger, Book 1, A Child Adrift in the Scientology Sea Organization. You can order these from Amazon.com. This is Book 1, and then this is Book 2. And that's Janis on the cover with L. Ron Hubbard on both books. But we have links in our descriptions, and you can go to Amazon.com and order them. They're paperback. They have photos. They have a lot of the photos you've seen and some of the stuff in there. And they're great books if you're interested in the history of Scientology and the Sea Organization. And you can order them there. Janis, is there anything else? Well, I wanted to mention, please subscribe to our channel.
Jen has just made a comment. She's missing. She's got a withdrawal.
Right, I got it. Jen, Mark, I'm having hockey withdrawals. Great Stanley Cup series. Janis, you're so fun to listen to. Thank you both for always brightening our day. Yes, go Knights, go. We won the Stanley Cup. There was a big celebration last Saturday. Our players got really drunk, and they're celebrating the Stanley Cup here in Las Vegas. And thank you, Jen. We're happy that you won the bag. You won the bag, so we appreciate that. Okay, and then I was going to go back here 1 second here. Please subscribe to our channel. Okay, we need more subscribers. We're almost to 5,000. So if you're here watching and you haven't subscribed, just hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. And then if we missed any questions, go ahead and ask in the comments section of the video, because I check the comments 2-3 times a day. So we always try and answer them as well. So anyway, we just wanted to let you know that we think about you. We will answer your questions and all that. Janis, have you got anything else here before?
Yeah, I just want to tell Colonel Brock that yes, signed copies are available. Just email me, JanisGillhamGrady@gmail.com, and I'll answer any questions on getting signed copies.
Okay. Well, there you go. We want to thank you for watching L. Ron Hubbard's Messengers Part 5, and we'll see you on our next video and live stream on Saturday. Bye-bye, everybody.